Please give him a big Houston welcome to Andrew Breitbart.
That was very nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. I just came from Los Angeles. I was not recognized like I was in Houston. That's all I can say. Before I start, I want to introduce a very special person in my life who I've only known for about a year. But when this then 20-year-old came into my life, I realized 100% that my life and her life and one other individual's lives would change forever because we understood the nature of the battle that we had just engaged in. Her name is Hannah Giles. And very few of you know she'd attended her first Tea Party April 15th of 2009. In May of 2009, you, the people, inspired her to come up with a little plan to take on Acorn. That was a 20-year-old in South Florida. It's an amazing story. We ended up going up to New York. I met her. She had never actually been in the snow. I don't know why I'm telling you that little side note. She goes, "What's that stuff out there?" I go, "That's snow." She goes, "I've never seen snow before." She's the most fantastic person, and she's here, and I want you to welcome her because I think that she started what is the first shot of the war that we will win, not in November, over the next 20, 30, 40 years of taking our country back. Hannah Giles. Come on up. This is a citizen journalist, and this is a citizen warrior, and she's only 21 years old. This is the battle that we started, is the battle that I believe that started 20 years ago when a guy that maybe some of you have heard of, Rush Limbaugh, took the moribund AM dial. How do I know about the AM dial? From 1987 when I went from California to Tulane on I-10. Literally, this is how I got to college. I took La Casa Lane, where I was from, a little cul-de-sac in Brentwood, and then I went down Bundy Drive, where O.J. killed his family, or his wife, and then I took Sunset to the 10, and then I drove on the 10, and I got to college in New Orleans. And I remember listening to the AM dial in parts of Texas. Texas is big. Has anybody told you that? There's actually not there's a period where they actually test you on the 10 to see if you can actually get to the next gas station. I'm like, this is crazy. I've been looking since I had 20 miles on the odometer. Anyway, I don't know how you guys do it. Anyway, I remember listening to the AM dial in 1987. I heard Tejano music, and I heard religious stations. There was nothing like what happened in 1988 when Rush Limbaugh got on the AM dial. And what the AM dial has become was the beginning of this movement. It would not have happened without Rush Limbaugh. I'm giving you a history lesson, like another person who's on television and radio. It's important because this is my history, and this is why Hannah Giles is so important. I'm going to take you through that history. What Rush Limbaugh does better than anybody is he thinks. And we had not had people in the news business thinking for a long time. We had a bunch of propagandists telling us what to think. And Rush Limbaugh used good old-fashioned common sense. And what he did was he'd take the New York Times and he'd take CNN and the Washington Post and USA Today, and all he did was read it and then set us straight, saying that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. And he became the enemy of the mainstream media. He became an enemy of the elite. These people, the mainstream media says they're neutral. We get attacked on 9/11. They're like, they don't understand us. We don't understand them. Let's have a kumbaya session. But Rush Limbaugh analyzes their less than perfect work, and he is isolated as the enemy of the American people. And what he did is he started to teach us that we need to start taking the bullets along with him. But that was the AM dial. And so talk radio started proliferating in city after city, and people of common sense started calling in, and the elite couldn't stand it. And then a gentleman came along in 1995 by the name of Matt Drudge, and he took this other thing called the internet, and he said, you know what? I'm going to start telling stories that the mainstream media doesn't want you to see. And you saw what he did with the Monica Lewinsky story, and they tried to destroy him for telling the truth. But that was one person, and you'd have to know how to do HTML, how to FTP, all this complicated stuff. And so people every election cycle would cross their fingers and say, dear God, I hope that Drudge and Rush have the goods. Something has happened in the last few years, and that is that we no longer just have Rush and Drudge and the talk radio masses to tell us the truth. We now have us, because we told for years, Rush politely told Katie Couric, you're not telling the truth. And for years Katie Couric said, Rush, you're a slob, you're a racist, you're a terrible individual. That was Katie Couric calling you all those names. For years, the American people stood there and watched these people from Manhattan calling us the worst possible names in the world. They never thought that we would have the technology and the will and the courage as the polite people of this country to say, Katie, your days are going to come to a close in the mainstream media, and they're not going to end pretty.